I'm Salavalo and I have been to every single country in the world. This includes all of the famous ones that millions of tourists go to every single year, all of them. But it also includes all of the countries that you've maybe never heard of, and all of the countries that you've been taught to be afraid of, that have secretive societies, that don't give access to foreigners, that are off limits. I've been to all of them. So today, I am here and I'm going to tell you about my experience inside the 5 most secretive countries in the world. So here we go. The next country that is the most secretive in the entire world is the small island of Nauru. This island is secretive because of 2 reasons. One, it's very small, very out of the way, only 10,000 people, very few flight connections to get there, very few reasons for people to go anyway, so not a lot of stuff gets in or gets out. However, that can be said for any of the small Pacific islands, but the specific case of Nauru is because it is the host location of the refugee processing center for the Australian government. Essentially, if any refugees are caught in the international waters around Australia, they're brought to one of a couple different refugee centers, one of which is Nauru. The idea being that by not ever having the refugees or the asylum seekers set foot on Australia itself, they can kind of still keep a little bit of a distance from that. Because they've built these processing centers there, which have varying degrees of claims of human rights abuses and geopolitical tensions between human rights groups and Australia and some other governments that are kind of involved in this, that makes Nauru very hesitant about anybody that's coming in and very hesitant to let the people who do come in have any access, and also very hesitant to show them anything. When you go to Nauru, you have a couple choices. Because there aren't that many flights, you can either kind of stay for a day or for 5 days. There's not many options in between if you want to be flying off to other Pacific countries. I decided to stay for the full 5 days. And not only did I get to experience the Nauru island life, but I was lucky because I actually did get a lot of exposure to the refugee problem that Nauru is facing. And that is mostly because I became friends with the executive of the big phosphate company. Before the refugee center was there, Nauru made all of its money on mining of phosphate, which for a while made it one of the highest income per capita countries in the world. However, the revenues from that were invested quite poorly by the government, mismanaged by the foreigners that were mandated to manage that money. And now the reserves have dwindled and the country has very little else that they can do economically, which is the reason why they allowed this other government to take some of the sovereignty of Nauru and build this center. The refugees and asylum seekers on Nauru have various different levels of processing, and because of that, differing rights in the different camps that exist on Nauru. So some of them are literally essentially in a prison, right? Not allowed to leave, not allowed to do anything. Then there are those who are formally seeking asylum, have been completely processed all of their paperwork, and they have more freedoms to go around. Now, some of those people have been on the island for 5 years, 10 years or more with nothing to do. However, they've recently started allowing some of them to get given jobs. And so at the phosphate company, there are a few refugees or asylum seekers who are employed. So at this Christmas party, I was introduced to some of them. One of them was a guy from Pakistan, and I used to live in Pakistan, so we kind of connected on that, also both being Muslim. And he was given the job of touring me around the island with the company car. And so I spent like a whole day with him exploring every little part of this tiny island, but we also went to the camp that he was living in, to the refugee camp, or I forget exactly the term, because again, like refugee is a legal status thing, and some of them are not technically refugees yet. Some of them are asylum seekers, some of them, whatever, complicated political stuff. But he took me to the place where he was living with other guys from Pakistan, Afghanistan, that were trying to come to Australia and got stuck in Nauru. And that was really eye-opening. I mean, they live in these kind of like modified trailers, like very small closet size places with a little bed, a couple things, but he like kind of toured me around where it was. We went near the camp that was more closed off. We were able to go in to it a little bit and just kind of like see somewhat of the life that is being lived there as a single male refugee. I was also then taken by an Iranian family to the camp that is set aside for families that have come all together. So this was a mother with her 2 children. One of them was a guy my age, the other one was a little bit of a younger girl. And so the son and his friends kind of took me around and like drove me through the island. And the mom made this fantastic Persian dinner for me and like at the camp. And we all had a really nice time kind of like connecting and hanging out. And they had been on the island for so many years, like I think 5, with that not much to do. And so I kind of think that it's just such a challenge that like you can't even comprehend, and like being there for only a few days and being so obviously coming and going and being on this journey to every country in the world is kind of the opposite of the situation that they were in. There's the question of whether these facilities on Nauru will be able to like be maintained. Like there's so much political conflict in Australia against them and with them, and so they're always like saying that they're going to be closed. When I was there, they had just announced that like America was going to take a lot of the refugees and bring them into the States, but then our president, I think, canceled that plan. And it's just a horrific existence, kind of being in limbo. However, one thing that I would say that's like interesting about the Nauru case is that there's a lot of different types of people that are seeking asylum in terms of what they're escaping from. And I think when we think of refugees, we always think about people escaping from war, like that if they would have stayed, they would have died for this or that reason. And that obviously is the case for a lot of the people that are in Nauru. You don't leave your home and you don't try and sneak into another place illegally just for fun. It's very much a life or death situation. But I've been in refugee camps in Iraq, following ISIS, been in refugee camps in parts of war-torn and like drought-stricken Africa, and those were very different stories from the guys in Nauru. Most of them had left their countries years ago, spent some time like in Southeast Asia, and were just trying to find some place where they could be more like safely legal. And that was kind of my experience in Nauru. Very interesting place. I hope that you enjoyed this video, that you learned something new about these 5 countries, that you see them in a little bit of a new light. If you like this video, I have so many more. I even have some much longer ones about some of the countries that I've discussed. So check them out, subscribe, comment. I respond to all the comments. Follow me on Instagram or on Facebook. And I hope that I'll see you again and that you will travel safe.